Boleh tepuk tangannya untuk CIFP 2025. Hadirin selamat pagi dan selamat datang kami ucapkan di CIFP 2025. Perkenalkan, nama saya Sarah Wayne dan senang sekali pada pagi hari ini saya akan memandu acara yang luar biasa. Dan sebelum kita memulai agenda kita pada pagi hari ini, kami persilakan kepada seluruh hadirin, seluruh peserta yang masih berada di luar ruangan untuk dapat segera masuk ke dalam Citizen Diplomacy Hall karena sesaat lagi acara akan segera dimulai. Namun sebelum kita memulai agenda pertama kita untuk CIFP 2025 pagi hari ini, kami ingin mengumumkan sejumlah pengumuman. Yang pertama untuk kamar kecil atau toilet berada di luar ruangan sebelah kanan. Dan dalam keadaan darurat, Bapak dan Ibu dan juga hadirin terdapat exit ruangan atau emergency exit yang berada di belakang ruangan Citizen Diplomacy Hall ini. Dan bagi rekan-rekan yang hendak melaksanakan ibadah sholat, musola berada di lantai LG dan juga lantai 4 Mall Kota Casablanca. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who require an interpretation device for Bahasa Indonesia to English, we provide interpretation devices on the left-hand side of the room. Please do make sure though to return the interpretation devices to the interpretation device desk before exiting the room. Dan kami juga informasikan kepada seluruh peserta, kami mohon kerjasamanya untuk tidak membuang sampah sembarangan dan untuk dapat membuang sampah pada tempatnya. Dan karena pada hari ini kami juga telah menyiapkan sejumlah kegiatan yang luar biasa menarik, kami mohon dan juga kami undang seluruh hadirin, seluruh peserta untuk dapat posting di sosial media keseruan di Conference on Indonesian Foreign Policy 2025 melalui Instagram, X dan juga Facebook dengan menggunakan hashtag CIFP 2025 dan jangan lupa untuk mention at FPC Indo. Dan untuk keseluruhan agenda ataupun rangkaian CIFP 2025 selengkapnya bisa langsung saja diakses dan dilihat di cifp2025.com. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu hadirin dan juga peserta Conference on Indonesian Foreign Policy 2025, saya boleh minta semangat ya terlebih dahulu. Sekali lagi kami ucapkan terima kasih dan bagi Bapak dan Ibu yang baru saja hadir kami persilakan untuk dapat segera menempati tempat duduk. Dan hadirin kami persilakan selanjutnya untuk dapat bangkit berdiri untuk bersama-sama menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem Indonesia Raya. Hadirin kami persilakan duduk kembali. Ladies and gentlemen, you may now be seated.
melihat sadarku bertahun bersama terwujudlah terbayang yang terindah, yang terhampa berlalulah sadarku semuanya perasaan rasa cinta kaulah yang diinginkan aku dari mimpiku coba terbangkan hayalku dari sadarku. Terbayang yang terindah, yang terhampa berlalulah sadarku semuanya perasaan rasa cinta kaulah yang diinginkan aku dari mimpiku coba terbangkan hayalku dari sadarku.
Sometimes in our lives we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have faith, you need to borrow. Understand, we all need somebody to lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. you carry on, boy. It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just lean on me, brother. Hey, when you need a hand, we all need somebody to lean on. Just find us a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
There is a load you have to bear, that you can carry. I am right up the road.
I'll share your load if you just call me. Call me. Call me. When you need a friend.
When you need a friend.
If you need a friend. Any time of day. It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on, lean on, lean on, lean on, lean on me, 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 I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. I'm gonna need somebody to lean
Once again, give it up. Berikan tepuk yang luar biasa untuk LSPR Choir. Terima kasih teman-teman LSPR Choir. Boleh dong tepuk tangannya sekali lagi semangatnya. Thank you for the energy, luar biasa semangatnya untuk membuka pagi hari ini. Baik Bapak dan Ibu hadirin, pada pagi hari ini Conference on Indonesian Foreign Policy 2025 sesaat lagi akan dimulai. Kami persilakan sekali lagi untuk bisa menempati tempat duduk bagi Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang baru saja memasuki ruangan pada kesempatan pagi hari ini. Dan CIFP 2025 sekali lagi akan dimulai dengan berbagai sesi dan juga diskusi. There will be sessions and discussions. Dan untuk agenda seluruhnya sekali lagi bisa dilihat di cifp2025.com. Dan untuk memulai kegiatan kita, izinkan saya untuk membuka. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia dengan bangga mempersembahkan Conference on Indonesian Foreign Policy 2025 dengan tema Preparing for the Next World Order Indonesia, the Global South and the West. Berikan tepuk tangan yang luar biasa on Conference on Indonesian Foreign Policy 2025. Baik Bapak dan Ibu hadirin dan juga peserta CIFP 2025, perkenalkan nama saya Sarah Wayne dan pada kesempatan kali ini senang sekali saya bisa memandu acara opening session di CIFP 2025. And of course, on this moment we'd like to extend our warmest welcome to all of the ambassadors, diplomatic corps and government representatives from 71 countries who have joined us this morning. Please give a round of applause. Welcome, Your Excellency. Dan tentunya pada pagi hari ini kami juga mengucapkan selamat datang dan selamat bergabung kepada seluruh peserta yang hadir. Buat berikan tepuk tangan luar biasa untuk seluruh peserta, untuk kita semua. Karena pada kesempatan kali ini di tengah CIP 2025, hadirin sekalian, Conference on Indonesian Foreign Policy atau CIFP merupakan konferensi kebijakan luar negeri terbesar di dunia. Boleh dong tepuk tangannya. Dan pastinya kita harus dan sudah sepatutnya bangga karena faktanya konferensi kebijakan luar negeri terbesar di dunia bukanlah di Amerika, bukan di Tiongkok, bukan di India, bukan di Jepang, tapi di mana? Betul sekali, berikan tepuk tangannya untuk Indonesia. Dan bukan hanya itu, kita harus lebih bangga lagi. Kenapa? Karena Conference on Indonesian Foreign Policy ini sepenuhnya diorganisir oleh anak muda Indonesia. Beri tepuk tangan sekali lagi untuk seluruh generasi muda anak muda Indonesia. Dan pastinya hadirin Bapak dan Ibu dan juga peserta, kami juga ingin mengucapkan terima kasih sebesar-besarnya kepada seluruh sponsor yang telah membantu mensukseskan acara pada hari ini. Terima kasih kami ucapkan kepada Bakmi GM, Blibli, Deko Rumah, Foxes, Hydro Plus, Kopi Tubruk Gajah, Polytron, Tiket.com, Bank UOB Indonesia, Embassy of the United States, Freeport Indonesia, 5P Global Movement, April Group, Embassy of Australia, Harum Energy, Indorama Corporation, PT Triputra Agro Persada, Indonesia Morowali Industrial Park, Hana Bank, Hiroto Group, KMK Group, Sido Muncul, Telkom Indonesia, Embassy of Germany, Embassy of Canada. Berikan tepuk tangannya untuk sponsor kita. Dan terima kasih juga kami ucapkan kepada seluruh media partner CIFP 2025, Berita 1, BTV, Investor Daily, jakartaglobe.id, Antara News, katadata.co.id, Rakyat Merdeka, Rakyat Merdeka Online, Metro TV, metrotvnews.com, Bisnis Indonesia, bisnis.com, dataindonesia.id, Unexplained, Kok Bisa, tribunnews.com, Kompas TV, Liputan 6, merdeka.com, IDN Times, The Southeast Asia Desk, Text from IR, Total Politik, Migrant Times, dan si paling HI Media. Berikan tepuk tangan juga untuk media partners. Dan kami juga mengucapkan terima kasih kepada 46 mitra CIFP 2025. Dan selain mitra, kami juga ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada 58 FPCI chapters yang telah hadir pada hari ini. Terima kasih seluruh FPCI chapters yang telah bergabung dan datang dari seluruh Indonesia. Karena coba di sini saya mau tanya, siapa yang datang ke sini naik bus? Dan kalau di sini yang naik pesawat? Dan kalau yang naik kapal? Lengkap ya, darat, udara, dan laut. Boleh berikan tepuk tangan sekali lagi. Terima kasih sudah menghadiri CIFP 2025. Dan karena sudah semangat, sudah ramai pada pagi hari ini, pastinya kami juga ingin mengundang Bapak dan Ibu dan juga hadirin CIFP 2025 untuk bisa membagikan keseruan pada hari ini dengan cara membagikannya di media sosial dengan cara upload menggunakan hashtag CIFP 2025 dan juga jangan lupa untuk mention @FPC Indo. Kami tunggu untuk foto-fotonya dan juga berbagi keseruannya di media sosial. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu dan juga hadirin peserta CIFP 2025. Untuk pembicara kita yang pertama, pastinya Bapak dan Ibu hadirin peserta sudah familiar, and of course I believe our speaker does not need any introduction sebetulnya, karena beliau merupakan mantan Duta Besar Indonesia untuk Amerika Serikat dan juga mantan Wakil Menteri Luar Negeri Republik Indonesia. Beliau adalah pendiri dan ketua dari Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia. Coba saya tanya, langsung saja Bapak dan Ibu hadirin peserta, beliau izinkan saya untuk memperkenalkan, beliau adalah betul sekali, beliau adalah Dr. Dino Patijalal. Berikan tepuk tangannya. Tetapi sebelum kami mengundang Bapak Dino Patijalal untuk dapat naik ke atas panggung, marilah kita bersama-sama terlebih dahulu menyaksikan video mengenai diplomasi Indonesia di tahun 2025 berikut ini.
Saudara-saudara sekalian, Indonesia memilih jalan bebas aktif, non-blok, non-aligned. Indonesia akan menjalankan politik luar negeri sebagai negara yang ingin menjadi tetangga yang baik. We want to be the good neighbor. Kita ingin menganut filosofi kuno. 1000 kawan terlalu sedikit, 1 lawan terlalu banyak.
Indonesia will formally join BRICS as a full member, further expanding the group of major emerging economies.
Presiden Erdogan adalah dari segi pengabdian adalah senior, seorang presiden yang senior.
Pemulangan 554 WNI korban TPPO sektor online scam dari Myanmar dilakukan di Terminal 2 Bandara Soekarno-Hatta, Tangerang, Banten. Setelah
Kita mendapat kehormatan, kunjungan dari Yang Mulia terima kasih karena Turki menerima kami dengan hati yang terbuka. Therefore, Myanmar will be able to give that to the Commission for Informal Advisory Group for Initiatives and
Presiden RI Prabowo Subianto dan Presiden Prancis Emmanuel Macron menandatangani nota kesepahaman awal kerjasama pertahanan di Jakarta pada Rabu 20. Alasan Indonesia membeli 48 unit pesawat tempur KA dari Turki. Ia menjelaskan
juga menunjukkan komitmen untuk kita terus memperkuat kerjasama di
dalam agenda Bastille Day atau Hari Nasional Prancis, Presiden RI Prabowo Subianto hadir.
Struggle for all the South Africans.
Meningkat terus menerus. Kita merupakan dua
for him taking a moment to make sense Prabowo Subianto.
In the multilateral cooperation amongst a sense of community across our region.
Discuss leadership in steering the G20 through a challenging year.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for Dr. Dino Patijala.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let's do it one more time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Menteri Ekonomi Kreatif Teuku Rifki Harsha, Pak Haritanu Sudibyo dan Angela Tanu Sudibyo, Bapak Edi Suparno, Wakil Ketua MPR, Deputi Kementerian Ekraf, Kemenko Infrastruktur, Wilayah Pariwisata, Kantor Staf Presiden, Director Generals dari Kemlu, para Direktur dari Kemlu, Ambassadors who are here. I see my good friend Ambassador Abdullah from UAE, Mario from Chile, everybody. Thank you for being here. Delegation from Klingendale, my family. Yeah, let's give them a good hand. From Holland, President of IDN Global, Natalie Wijaya, my boss. Speakers, journalists, I want us to begin with a moment of silence to remember and express sympathy for the victims of the Banjir Bandang, the big floods in North Sumatra, in West Sumatra and Aceh. Yeah. May I ask all of us to raise, to bangun untuk mengheningkan cipta. Mengheningkan cipta dimulai. Selesai. Silakan duduk. Kita cek audience dulu ya. Siapa yang peduli dengan dunia internasional? Raise your hand. Everybody. Klingendale, only Bob? Siapa yang datang dari jauh dari luar Jakarta? No other group in the world where people travel by bus and on boat for 3 nights naik kapal hanya untuk datang di CIFP. Thank you very much. And by the way, I have an empty house, my mom's house. 75 students are living in that house. Just for tonight. Yeah. Siapa yang deg-degan dengan UAS hari Senin? Ya. Siapa yang stres karena kelamaan jomblo? Siapa yang ngarep ketemu jodoh hari ini? Siapa yang bete karena Hamish sama Raisa pisah? Siapa yang pede bisa mendapatkan hati Raisa? Siapa yang sedih dan nangis dengan the situation in Gaza? Who is convinced that Palestine will become independent and free? In the next 10 years. It's fair, you don't need to, if you don't think it's going to happen in the next 10 years, it's okay. Who feels the UN Security Council has to be reformed? Everybody. Bob, you better tell this to Klingendale people. Who feels your future will be better than your parents' life? That's in Europe, would they say the same, you think? Who feels the future of the world will be better than the present one? That's interesting. 10%. 10%. So I received notice that Foreign Minister Sugiono will not be able to attend and give a speech today. So I ask for your permission to extend my speech for another 5-10 minutes. So please don't fall asleep. Yeah. And I will try to walk you through my thoughts. Let me begin with this point. The next world order is upon us. Let's take a moment to digest this picture. The next world order is coming our way. Our founding fathers felt this sensation. In the midst of 1945, they sensed that a new world was coming. They saw atom bombs being dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They saw Japan surrendering to the Allies. They saw the signing of the UN Charter at UN in San Francisco conference. And bang, the post-war liberal international order arrived. And Indonesia was born along with that new world. And Pancasila was also born with that new world. But unlike the 1945 world order, the next world order will come not with one big bang. The next world order will come in slow motion with new players, with different ideas, some with more resources, some with their own ambitions, and they will bring their own interpretation of the norms, they will build their own coalitions, and they will build their own architectures. Who cares about the next world order, you would say? You should care, because every milestone of our nation's history is dependent on the world order. In the 15th century, the European order became the world order and made us victims of colonialism and imperialism. When the so-called third wave of democracy swept the world, Indonesia was among the last country to become a democracy at the end of the 20th century. And when there was a financial crisis in 2008, Indonesia repositioned ourselves to become a member of the G20, placing us at the center of global economic decision-making. So every time the world changed, we in Indonesia were always impacted and became part of that change. And that's why you should care, because you will be the recipient of that next world order. All of you will be living, working, marrying, making babies, breathing in that next world order. Now, I intentionally call this the next world order, not the new world order. Why? Because it will not be a total replacement of the old order. Many of the features that you see today will remain, and they must remain. The United Nations will remain, the UN Charter will remain, the Geneva Convention will remain, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea will remain, ASEAN will remain, NKRI, Indonesia, will remain, and the number of countries around the world will remain about the same, around less than 200 countries. But while some things remain, others will inevitably change. You may ask, why is the world order changing? Kenapa harus berubah? Well, the new distribution of power in the world system alone will do this. Even if we change nothing, even if there is no change in the world institutions, the new distribution of power in the world system has, by default, changed world affairs. In 1945, there are only 51 countries who signed the UN Charter. And there were only 3 Asian countries, 3 out of those 51, who signed the Asian Charter, the UN Charter, which is, you know who? China, India, and the Philippines. Today, UN member states has grown almost 4 times, from 51 to 193 countries. And today, there are more middle-income countries and more middle-class population throughout the world. In 1945, most countries were poor. But today, there are 108 middle-income countries compared to almost none in 1945. In 1945, the only middle-class population you would see is probably in the United States and a very small number of countries. But today, there's about 4 billion middle-class population throughout the world. And today, BRICS has combined GDP in terms of PPP greater than the G7. In PPP terms, BRICS now account for 40% of global GDP, while G7 account for 28%. And this gap will only continue to grow due to the certain growth of BRICS membership. The second reason why the world order is changing is that the rules-based world order is crumbling. Mau hancur. Confidence in the rules-based system is at all-time low. And in all my years in diplomacy, I've never seen anything like in the past 2 years, since the Russia-Ukraine war and Gaza. Yes, there are a lot of rules, many rules, but they do not apply equally to every country. They are not applied fairly to all countries. There's a lot of selectivity, tebang pilih. And some countries are exempted from these rules. And great powers tend to only apply the rules at their own convenience and would, in a heartbeat, drop these rules if they are incompatible with their national interests. International law has become less relevant, including international humanitarian law. Hypocrisy, double standard, and inconsistency has become the new normal, and it very much feels like a dangerous world where might makes right is progressing. President Prabowo is very right in saying that every day we witness suffering, genocide, and a blatant disregard for international law and human decency. The third reason for a changed world order is that multilateral institutions, many of them, are simply not working. The UN Security Council has failed to respond to many security urgencies, and often because the P5 members just promote their own self-interest and abuse the veto right. WTO, the World Trade Organization, is somewhat dysfunctional. Non-proliferation nuclear treaty is ineffective. WHO, World Health Organization, IOM for migration, UNHCR for refugees, World Food Program, and many others. All these institutions are under duress due to lack of funding or geopolitical rivalries. The fourth reason why world affairs is problematic is this. We are really seeing a world that is going in the wrong direction. You think about that. You know, President of Kazakhstan is right when he says that the world around us has changed profoundly, but unfortunately not for the better. We are losing our moral compass. The line between right and wrong, something my parents, your parents taught us very clearly, is increasingly blurry. Bigotry and prejudice are rising in both the North and the Global South. Mistrust and national insecurity are spreading, and everything is being weaponized. Trade, finance, energy, technology, aid, migration, education, media, even culture are being weaponized, and that's not right. Identity politics and religion-based nationalism is growing. Multiculturalism, what a great thing, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, is under threat, under pressure. Multilateralism is weakening, and for many nations, me first is preferred over we together. A win-lose mindset is growing. And meanwhile, the rise of defense spending is the highest since the end of the Cold War. $2.7 trillion global military spending in 2024 compared to $1.7 trillion in 2014. Europe alone will be spending 800 billion euros in the next 4 years. And meanwhile, we are losing the climate battle. UN experts predict that we are well on our way to reach 2.3 degree world, far above the 1.5 degree set by the Paris Climate Agreement. And meanwhile, only 17% of Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, are on track to meet the targets by 2030. Can you imagine all these amazing goals set globally? Only 17% are on target. And you know what they say? They say that even just 4% of global military spending, 4% only, will erase poverty forever. Right? 15% of global military spending would help cover climate adaptation in developing countries. And 8% of that global military spending would vaccinate every child in the world, in the developing South. So with all this, no wonder many world leaders at the UN General Assembly this year, in so many words, believe that the current world order no longer works. And I repeat my earlier point. We are entering into the next world order. We are in the midst of a great transition. As Singapore Prime Minister Lawrence Wong said, the old rules do not apply anymore, but the new ones have not been written. We must brace ourselves for more turbulence ahead. You can ask me, Pak Dino, you talk about the next world order. What does it look like? It's hard to say what the next world order will look like. It's still unfolding, but some of its features are beginning to show. What are they? First, in the next world order, the primacy of the West is over. Not because they're declining, although some are, but because others, many others, are rising in economic, political, strategic, and technological capacity. Secondly, in the next world order, the American unipolar moment is gone forever. I have my good friend Amitav Acharya. He will tell you about this. He's sitting someplace. Because we cannot, no matter what the United States does, it can never reclaim the unipolarity that they enjoyed briefly after 1991. Third, the next world order will be characterized by the rise of middle powers. You know, when I went to Europe and the United States and other places, everybody talks about China. China is a major force in the world, present and future, and so on, they said. Okay, it's true, but it's not just China. We at FPCI really believe that the middle powers, including Indonesia, will play a decisive role in shaping the next world order. There are about 20 middle powers around the world today, as you can see in the slides. And this number will only grow with Mongolia, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Pakistan. And the majority of these middle powers, judging from their size and strength, will come from the global south. And I apologize to my friends from Britain, Russia, and the UK, who were great powers in 1945, but today FPCI would classify them as pivotal middle powers by size and strength. Fourth, the next world order will be characterized by a new equilibrium, an always evolving dynamic equilibrium. And in this equilibrium, all countries must learn to deal with multiple models of engagement. Indonesia engages China differently than we engage Russia, than we engage the United States, than we engage India. And countries have a lot more options than before. So the landscape is totally fluid. For example, after receiving news of 32% tariff by the Trump administration, what did Prabowo administration do? They moved fast to sign economic partnership agreement with EU, with the Europeans, which was stuck for 9 years. They finalized it in just a few months. And then he went to Canada to sign yet another comprehensive economic partnership agreement, something that nobody thought would be done that fast. And President Prabowo also elevated ties with many countries, not just with China also, but with India, with Turkey, with France, Saudi Arabia, Great Britain, UAE, and most recently, a bilateral security treaty with Australia. And that is why we believe that the next world order will be marked by an explosion of alignments, more so than the growth of military alliances. The number of countries that are involved in military alliances will not grow very significantly around the world, but the number of countries who are engaged in eclectic, a la carte, issue-based alignments will grow exponentially, and they are changing the texture of world affairs. And the next world order is certain, udah pasti, to be a hotter world. 2 degrees, maybe 3 degrees hotter, maybe 4 degrees hotter, with all its geopolitical, economic, political, and security, humanitarian ramifications. The next world order must also establish global governance and norms on new emerging issues, especially AI. And finally, let me know if you agree with this. In the next world order, there must be a new sovereign independent country called Palestine. My final part is about the path forward. The next world order is coming. It's like tomorrow. You don't know if it's going to be rainy or sunny, but it's coming, like tomorrow. Where do we go from here? And in saying this, we must always beware that there is no guarantee that the next world order will be better than the present order. No guarantee. You don't know. I don't know. And you know what? The global south is the best at complaining, but not very good at conceiving and constructive. And I can say that because I'm a member of the global south, and I was a member of its diplomatic machinery. So how can the global south shape the world order for the better. I repeat, how can the Global South shape the world order for the better? I think what is most important is the Global South must claim, own, support, and fund multilateralism. With the United States' retreat from multilateralism and withdrawal of its funding, now is the time for the Global South to step up its funding in multilateral institutions. You know, there was this attitude, and I know this because I worked in diplomacy before. This attitude is, let the rich countries pay for it. We either take their aid or we don't contribute much to it. But we love multilateralism. We are the champion of multilateralism. Oh, sorry, pay for it? No, sorry, I don't want. Tomorrow, later, right? That's not the attitude that we need to move forward. Let's be honest, the key players in the Global South do have money. Yeah, many Global South countries. Out of the top 10 global military spenders, there are 2 Global South countries now. But out of the top 10 UN budget contributors, there's not a single Global South countries. They can afford it. Indonesia too can afford it. Secondly, we should work towards a global North-South compact to reprioritize sustainable development goals. You know, SDG is this global goal that has been negotiated, framed, and agreed by everybody. Yeah, everybody, no matter what the political system. It is ideology-free. And what a wonderful world that would be, where the US and China and all the rivals, despite their strategic competition and mistrust, what a wonderful world it will be if they recommit in their own ways to help reach sustainable development goals targets globally. And I think this new North-South Compact should be based on the principle of equality, mutual respect, and genuine partnership. You know, we tried to do this in 1970s with the negotiations for the new international economic order, but it just did not work out very well for developing countries. But the North-South Compact will take 2 to tango to reach a mature partnership. The Global South countries should embrace an attitude that is forward-looking, constructive, not so much nostalgic, not so much playing victim, and abandon confrontational attitude towards the West. On the other hand, for this Global South partnership to take place, the West needs to let go of its sense of primacy. They should avoid patronizing and self-righteous attitude that often characterize their dealing with countries of the Global South. And the West must not see countries in the Global South from the perspective of their strategic rivalry with China. Additionally, FPCI also strongly believe that there should be a dedicated multilateral UN mandate process to review and reform the workings of the UN Security Council. You know, everybody has something to say that veto power should be taken, the numbers should be added, and so on and so on. In 10 years, they'll have the same conversation. In 20 years, they'll have the same conversation. They must have a process, a UN-mandated process that will result in the agreement to reform the UN Security Council, whatever that formula would be. And next, the best way to fix the next world order is to fix the regional order. When we talk about the world order, we can mean many things, but the world order for me, for us, also means the sum of regional orders. And remember, the world after 1945 changed because one region of the world changed also. Europe. Europe was poor, broken, devastated, divided, but Europe picked up and became and assumed economic, political, and strategic revival and integration, which made it a major feature of the international system. And that's also true for Southeast Asia, where we have done exceptionally well with ASEAN. And we hope to see successful efforts at regionalism, successes based on their own formula and local conditions in Africa, in South Asia, in the Gulf, in Latin America, in Central Asia, in the Pacific Ocean, and other places. When these regionalism in different parts of the world succeed, even when the UN system continues to be under duress, the next world order will become at least more resilient. And I think we should be open to the idea of revising the UN Charter. The UN Charter is not a sacred document which cannot be revised. It's not made by God, it's made by human beings. And the founders of the UN could not possibly imagine the world we live in today with internet, social media, AI, robotics, quantum computing, all the things that raise questions about the future of humanity. And if you ask me what the world will be in 70 years, I cannot tell you. None of us can tell you. And I will not have the arrogance to say I'm going to write a document where 70 years later it's going to all be totally valid. I don't have that capacity. None of us do. And even President Truman, who escorted the birth of the UN Charter, said this charter will be expanded and improved as time goes on. No one claims that the UN Charter is final or a perfect instrument. It has not been poured into any fixed mold. Changing world conditions will require readjustments of the UN Charter. But they should be readjustments for peace and not of war. So the big question for us, for Indonesia, is this. The world order, the next world order is coming. Do we want to be spectator on the sidelines or architect of that next world order? And I want to remind you that the history of Indonesia's diplomacy is about taking a pioneering role in a changing world. It's always the case. Our foreign policy tradition is not just about what is good about Indonesia, but also how we can fix the region and the world. If we get infected with that virus of me first, me only, I will cry. Ali Alatas will cry. Adam Malik will cry. Muhammad Hatta will cry, because that's not us. And this is why we convened Bandung Conference, which changed the world, changed the weight of the world, changed the dynamics of the world by raising the collective identity of countries outside the Eastern and Western Bloc. And this is why we created the non-aligned movement in 1961 that helped ease the clash between the East and Western blocs. And this is why we created ASEAN, which changed the region forever. And now ASEAN is masters of our own region. And this is why we also champion UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. Yeah. My father, Hashim Jalal, took part in that. Yeah. So this tradition must never be lost to our diplomats. Our diplomats must demonstrate that the power of our diplomacy rests on the power of our ideas and our ideals. Our foreign policy establishment must always be intellectually competitive. They must have the courage to take a stand, not being neutral on every case, and take risks for a better world. And the good news about Indonesian foreign policy today is that unlike the feeling in Europe, in the Middle East, in Northeast Asia, in South Asia, where one or two countries felt there are external threats to their security, for Indonesia, the external environment is conducive to us. No country poses any threat to Indonesia. And we consider no country to be our enemy. So to be honest, the challenge of our diplomacy is not external, but rather internal foreign policy management. And I hope we can discuss this in some of the sessions today. And remember, there are many former diplomats and active serving diplomats here. Remember what Foreign Minister Ali Alatas, our mentor, said: foreign policy begins at home. And another major factor for Indonesian foreign policy is that we have built up significant diplomatic and political capital with key players on all sides. As we can see in the past year, President Prabowo has developed closer relations beyond ASEAN leaders with President Macron, President Erdogan of Turkey, President Putin of Russia, President Xi Jinping of China, President Lula of Brazil, President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, with King Abdullah of Jordan, with Crown Prince MBS, with MBZ, with Prime Minister Modi, with Chancellor Frederick Merz, and so many others. And these are all tremendous foreign policy assets and can be the basis of Indonesia's coalition building to shape the next world order. But first, the Prabowo administration should decide what is the niche in that next world order that he wants to champion, because he can't fix and create everything in that architecture. And he must decide what is the coalition building that he will assemble to achieve them. But without doubt, given our position as an ASEAN member, as the G20 economy, and a country with a strong record of multilateral innovations, this is the moment where Indonesia must be one of the key architects of the next world order. And for you, you can clap if you believe that too. But for young people who are here today, this is not beyond you. You know, you see the world going in the wrong direction. You see bigotry, you see hatred, you see racism, you see oppression, you see corruption. You can do something. We just saw just last week Ira Puspadewi, a diaspora, being wrongfully charged. And what did the public do? They protested. They wrote on social media. They pushed back. They criticized the decision. And in the end, Ira Puspadewi was rehabilitated and released. So for the young people here, look, believe in the ideals. You are as good as the ideals that you believe in. Train your leadership skill. Practice volunteerism. And remember, we have this strange saying at FPCI on the wall. Kindness is power. Right? I know it sounds silly. It's not in the book of international relations. But kindness is power. You know, kindness to your neighbor, kindness to your friends at work, kindness to your community, kindness to other nations, kindness to those far away who are being oppressed and experiencing injustice. Kindness and caring is power. And finally, there is a wise saying by Peter Drucker. The best way to predict the future is to create it. So let us create that future, that next world order together. Thank you.
Sekali lagi berikan tepuk tangannya untuk Dr. Dino Patijalal. Terima kasih Pak Dino, thank you for the strong opening speech at Conference on Indonesian Foreign Policy 2025. Dan Bapak dan Ibu hadirin dan juga pastinya peserta CIFP 2025, sebelum kita lanjutkan ke agenda selanjutnya, izinkan saya untuk menyapa tamu yang telah hadir di tengah kita semua pada pagi hari ini. Kami ucapkan selamat pagi dan selamat datang kepada yang kami hormati Ibu Desi Ruhati, Sekretaris Kementerian Ekonomi Kreatif Indonesia. Selamat datang, Ibu, berikan tepuk tangannya. Selamat datang kepada Ibu Natalia Wijaya, Presiden Indonesian Diaspora Network Global. Selamat datang. Bapak Haritanu Sudibyo. Dan selamat datang juga kami ucapkan kepada Ibu Angela Tanu Sudibyo. Selamat pagi, selamat datang Ibu. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu hadirin dan juga peserta CIFP 2025, selanjutnya kita akan masuk ke sesi yang begitu powerful. Mengapa? Karena saatnya kita dengarkan bersama suara dan juga pandangan generasi penerus bangsa Indonesia. Langsung saja kami akan mengundang para mahasiswa Indonesia untuk dapat naik ke atas panggung dan menyampaikan langsung aspirasi mereka terkait kebijakan luar negeri Indonesia dan juga arah kebijakan luar negeri Indonesia pada kesempatan ini. Tepuk tangannya.
Kepada Bapak Presiden Republik Indonesia, Bapak Prabowo Subianto, kami anak muda Indonesia ingin memberi aspirasi kepada Bapak. Perkenalkan, saya Ridho Afandi Sinulinga, mahasiswa Hubungan Internasional dari BINUS University. Bapak Prabowo, saya sangat mengagumi semangat Bapak dalam membangun citra Indonesia yang kuat dan berdaulat di dunia internasional. Semangat itu menjadi inspirasi bagi kami, generasi muda. Namun, dari penelitian kecil yang saya lakukan tentang media internasional, saya menemukan masih banyak narasi yang kurang baik terhadap Indonesia, terutama soal ekonomi dan politik. Saya percaya narasi yang baik di dunia internasional akan membawa banyak sekali manfaat bagi bangsa kita, baik dalam membuka peluang investasi, membangun hubungan diplomasi, maupun memberi kepercayaan diri bagi warga Indonesia yang berada di luar negeri. Karena itu, besar harapan kami Bapak dapat mendorong penguatan citra positif Indonesia di dunia internasional melalui kebijakan luar negeri yang strategis dan komunikatif. Kami, anak muda Indonesia, siap mendukung langkah Bapak agar Indonesia semakin disegani dengan citra positif di mata dunia. Terima kasih Bapak Presiden Republik Indonesia.
Saya Naila dari Universitas Mula Warman, Bapak Prabowo Subianto. Saya mewakili anak muda, ingin memohon agar isu lingkungan dapat menjadi fondasi strategis dalam pembangunan nasional. Dalam sebulan terakhir, 2 pejabat Mahakam telah mati akibat tercemarnya sungai dan di tahun 2025 diperkirakan hanya akan tersisa 62 ekor. Populasi yang semakin menipis dan hampir punah tersebut menjadikan waktu kita untuk bertindak kian menipis. Di tengah keaktifan Indonesia kembali dalam G20, ASEAN, dan sidang umum PBB, diplomasi lingkungan seharusnya dapat menjadi agenda utama dalam politik luar negeri. Namun nyatanya respon yang ada masih jauh dari kata memadai. Kami berharap pemerintah dapat memperkuat sistem pengawasan, membongkar praktik perusakan lingkungan, dan memastikan bahwa sungai, hutan, dan udara dapat tetap menjadi warisan yang layak bagi generasi selanjutnya. Terima kasih.
Yang terhormat para hadirin sekalian, perkenalkan nama saya Fajar Maliki, seorang mahasiswa dan anggota dari FCI Chapter UPN Veteran Jakarta. Saya menyoroti lemahnya kebijakan luar negeri Indonesia dalam melindungi lingkungan. Kasus pertambangan di Raja Ampat, eksploitasi alam secara berlebihan di Papua, dan juga bencana ekologis yang baru saja ini terjadi dan menimpa saudara dan saudari kita di Sumatera berdampak negatif bagi masyarakat itu sendiri dan lingkungan akibat investasi yang ekstraktif. Dunia sedang menuju ke green economy. Indonesia perlu memperkuat diplomasi lingkungan berbasis sustainability yang menggabungkan aspek ekonomi, sosial, dan lingkungan. Maka karena itu kami pemuda Indonesia berharap pemerintah untuk memperketat standar kerjasama internasional, menolak investasi yang merusak lingkungan, dan menjadikan Raja Ampat dan Papua sebagai prioritas perlindungan ekologis nasional demi pembangunan yang lebih adil, sejahtera, makmur, dan bersih. Karena negara maju adalah negara yang nyaman untuk ditempati oleh warganya. Sekian, terima kasih.
Saya Alia Salma dari Universitas Jenderal Ahmad Yani Cimahi mewakili suara generasi muda Indonesia. Bapak Presiden, kami melihat diplomasi Indonesia di bawah kepemimpinan Bapak sangat tegas, dihormati, serta konsisten melindungi kepentingan nasional serta kemanusiaan. Namun, izinkan kami memberikan aspirasi untuk memperkuat langkah tersebut. Kami berharap Indonesia, diplomasi Indonesia semakin menempatkan human security sebagai pusat perlindungan rakyat dari ancaman iklim, disinformasi digital, serta risiko pandemi. Kami juga ingin Indonesia mengambil peran yang lebih besar dalam diplomasi teknologi dan AI, agar kita tidak hanya mengikuti perkembangan global, akan tetapi kita mengambil peran yang lebih penting untuk membuat untuk membuat aturan di tingkat global yang aman dan berdaulat. Kami juga ingin Indonesia agar terus menjadi inisiator bagi negara-negara yang rentan. Karena dunia membutuhkan sikap moral Indonesia. Bapak Presiden, kami generasi muda Indonesia siap mendukung langkah ini. Terima kasih.
Saya Christine dari Universitas Cendrawasih Jayapura. Saya sangat mengagumi kebijakan luar negeri Indonesia untuk tidak berpihak pada blok manapun, dengan aktif melakukan kerjasama baik dalam regional maupun kancah internasional. Indonesia dapat memperkuat posisinya di dunia internasional dan juga citra positifnya. Oleh sebab itu, besar harapan saya pada Bapak Presiden untuk memperkuat kerjasama tersebut, khususnya dalam bidang pendidikan, terutama di dalam daerah pedalaman di Indonesia seperti di Papua, untuk penyetaraan pendidikan. Oleh sebab itu, kolaborasi secara regional maupun internasional, saya percaya Indonesia untuk pendidikannya dapat tercapai dengan berkualitas dan setara. Sekian dari saya, terima kasih.
Saya Ridho Rizkita dari Universitas Mataram, Nusa Tenggara Barat. Bapak Presiden, optimalisasi ASEAN Economic Community terhambat secara struktural oleh dikarenakan lemahnya perdagangan intra-ASEAN dan juga pemahaman masyarakat luas terhadap ASEAN. Dalam dinamika Next World Order, prinsip ini bukan hanya tidak memadai, tetapi juga menjadi hambatan struktural bagi integrasi ekonomi ASEAN. Dan parahnya lagi, melemahkan posisi Indonesia sebagai agenda setter Global South. Aspirasi saya, Indonesia perlu memimpin untuk melakukan transformasi kondisi ini agar ASEAN memiliki harmonisasi kebijakan ekonomi yang mengikat, mekanisme respon krisis yang terkoordinasi, dan collective action yang nyata. Karena tanpa langkah berani ini, ASEAN akan stagnan dan kehilangan relevansi strategis dalam kompetisi VUCA era. IC blueprint itu clear, Pak. Problemnya bukan pada PC. Problemnya adalah tentang delivery. Terima kasih.
Saya Sinto, mahasiswi Universitas Cendrawasih Jayapura, Papua. Saya ingin menyampaikan aspirasi saya mengenai kebijakan politik luar negeri Indonesia yang dapat menekankan pada diplomasi iklim, diplomasi maritim, serta transformasi dan transportasi digital sebagai bagian dari peran strategis Indonesia di dunia internasional. Nah, dengan fokus tersebut, Indonesia memiliki peluang yang besar untuk memperkuat posisinya sebagai middle power sekaligus menciptakan citra positifnya di kancah global. Besar harapan saya agar kebijakan luar negeri ini terus diperkuat demi kepentingan nasional, baik bagi masyarakat di dalam negeri maupun diaspora Indonesia di luar negeri. Sekian dan terima kasih.
Perkenalkan, nama saya Patricia Clarence, saya mewakili Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia, Chapter Hasanuddin University dan seluruh suara dari Sulawesi. Kami dengan bangga ingin mengekspresikan bahwa kami adalah warga dari negara kepulauan terbesar. Kami melihat di bawah kepemimpinan Bapak Presiden Prabowo Subianto, negara Indonesia khususnya dalam diplomasi maritim semakin meningkat dan semakin terlihat. Namun kita perlu sadari bahwa dalam hal ini teknologi menjadi masalah yang kuat karena kita belum mampu untuk melakukan hal tersebut. Tapi kami percaya bahwa Indonesia kemudian dapat menjadi pemimpin yang strategis, pemimpin kawasan. Oleh karena itu, teknologi harus bersinergi dengan maritim agar dapat dibentuk seperti teknologi keamanan laut. Kita dapat membentuk keamanan cyber maritim, digitalisasi pelabuhan, sehingga dapat membantu banyak warga Indonesia. Harapan kami kepada Bapak Prabowo Subianto sebagai seorang presiden agar tidak hanya membantu dari segi teknis, tapi juga membantu sumber daya manusia dan juga kekuatan STEM di Indonesia. Kami berharap walaupun hal ini merupakan hal yang rumit dan tidak sederhana, tapi kita dapat menjadikan Indonesia sebagai negara dengan diplomasi maritim yang terkuat. Dan oleh dari itu, kami perwakilan dari seluruh chapter Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia mengucapkan terima kasih.
Berikan tepuk tangannya untuk seluruh FPCI chapters. Dan pastinya juga untuk seluruh mahasiswa dan generasi muda Indonesia. Dan Bapak dan Ibu hadirin dan juga peserta CIFP 2025 pada tahun 2024, diaspora global Indonesia sudah melampaui 8 juta orang. Dan banyak di antara mereka yang memainkan peran penting dalam ekonomi kreatif di bidang seni, desain, film, musik, arsitektur, media digital, dan juga kuliner. Dan untuk memanfaatkan dan juga mengangkat talenta global ini, Kementerian Ekonomi Kreatif Indonesia dan Indonesian Diaspora Network IDN Global telah meluncurkan inisiatif 1000 Diaspora Kreatif, yaitu sebuah upaya mengidentifikasi, menghubungkan, dan memberdayakan insan kreatif Indonesia di seluruh dunia. Berikan tepuk tangannya untuk inisiasi ini. Dan pastinya dengan adanya inisiasi ini kita harapkan dapat memperkuat diplomasi budaya dan juga citra internasional bangsa kita Indonesia. Dan untuk melihat seperti apa kreativitas diaspora Indonesia kita di luar negeri, marilah kita simak video berikut ini.
Indonesian diaspora is living its mark, sharing ideas, building new experiences, and elevating global culture. Across the world, our community has become a source of innovation and creativity. And now we bring that energy home, placing the creative economy at the heart of Indonesia's future.
Across the world, Indonesians create and inspire. Now we unite in a global movement, 1,000 Creative Indonesian Diaspora. This movement connects the creative diaspora with the homeland, amplifying their impact on Indonesia's creative economy. From art to cuisine to film and design, their contribution is a vital force. IDN Global and the Ministry of Creative Economy will sign a Memorandum of Understanding, laying the foundation for long-term collaboration to build an inclusive global Indonesian creative economy. We invite the Indonesian creative diaspora worldwide to join this movement. Together, we will shape a strong, competitive, and vibrant future for Indonesia's creative economy.
Memberikan tepuk tangannya untuk seluruh diaspora Indonesia Dan pastinya diaspora kreatif Indonesia yang terus membanggakan dan juga mengharumkan nama Indonesia di luar. Baik Bapak dan Ibu hadirin, pada kesempatan kali ini juga akan ada penandatanganan MOU program 1000 Diaspora Kreatif, tetapi akan dilakukan pada sesi terpisah pada hari ini di CIFP 2025. Memberikan tepuk tangannya terlebih dahulu, sehingga niat baik ini bisa memberikan keberkahan, kelancaran dan juga pastinya manfaat yang terbaik untuk Indonesia. Baik, dan dengan demikian sesi opening plenary dari Conference on Indonesian Foreign Policy 2025 telah selesai. Tetapi untuk diskusi dan keseruan CIFP 2025 belum selesai karena baru akan dimulai. Karena kita akan lanjutkan dan hadirkan dengan 21 sesi paralel yang akan berlangsung di 7 ruangan berbeda. Untuk ruangan yang pertama adalah di Citizen Diplomacy Hall atau di ruangan ini. Lalu yang kedua ada di ASEAN Room. Yang ketiga di Middle Power Room. Keempat di Diplomacy Clinic. 5 di Bebas Aktif Room. Keenam di C-Suite Room. Dan yang ketujuh di Multilateral Room. Dan untuk sesi paralel yang pertama akan dimulai tepat pada pukul 11.45 waktu Indonesia Barat atau kurang lebih 5 menit lagi. Jadi pastikan kalian semua tidak ketinggalan untuk sesi paralel yang pertama. Dan sebagai penutup rangkaian hari ini, nanti closing plenary juga akan diadakan pada pukul 17.15 waktu Indonesia Barat di ruangan ini atau ruangan Citizen Diplomacy Hall, di mana kita akan bersama-sama dengarkan pidato dari Bapak Wakil Menteri Luar Negeri, Bapak Arif Hafaz Ugroseno. Dan untuk melihat full agenda dari CIFP 2025, silakan untuk bisa mengakses langsung cifp2025.com. Dan selain itu sekali lagi jangan lupa untuk update di media sosial, share keseruan di CIFP 2025, di mana kalian semua bisa hadirkan apa hasil diskusi dan juga apa saja yang telah ditemui karena sudah tersebar berbagai booth menarik di area venue CIFP 2025. Dan jangan lupa untuk gunakan hashtag CIFP 2025 dan mention @FPC Indo. Dan bukan hanya itu saja, nanti juga akan ada maskot FPCI Terra yang akan menemani dan juga mewarnai conference pada hari ini. And I'd like to also remind to those of you using an interpretation device to please do make sure you return the devices to the interpretation service desk on the left-hand side of this room. And other rooms will also be providing interpretation devices as well. Akhir kata kami ucapkan terima kasih atas perhatian dan juga kehadiran Anda. Selamat menikmati rangkaian acara yang telah disiapkan dengan penuh semangat di Conference on Indonesian Foreign Policy 2025. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ganti baterai.